Hey there. Welcome to Marketing the 912. I'm your host, Jan Southern, and this podcast is really all about business and marketing in South Georgia. But today I had the pleasure of talking with Mark McCullough. He's an actor who grew up around here, but he has made his way to Hollywood, acting alongside Tom Cruise, Nicolas Cage, and most recently in Captain America as Demolition Man. Not only is Mark an amazing actor, but he's an incredibly nice guy who has taken what he has learned along the way to help other up-and-coming actors in their quest for a successful career. He coaches them. He has his own business related to teaching actors how to make it. And I was really struck by how similar the principles of the acting business are similar to the world of marketing for business. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, got to know him much better, and really enjoyed our conversation about marketing. I know you're going to enjoy it as much as I enjoyed talking with him. So take a listen. All right, Mark, nice to see you. Thank you for coming on to Marketing the 912 podcast. I appreciate it.
It is a pleasure. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, so I told you this before, but my first experience getting to know you, I was new in Georgia back in, I think it was maybe 2014, 2015. And I saw you at the gym and you were in your full, I thought like Civil War looking haircut, mustache. And I saw you day after day after day at the gym. And I always thought to myself, what is this guy's deal with this look? I couldn't figure out why you would have that look. And later I saw you on an interview in Savannah and you talked about that you were working on a role at the time. Do you remember which project that was?
Yeah, I was actually working on two projects at the same time. One was American Made with Tom Cruise, and the other was Free State of Jones with Mahershala Ali. And it's interesting because one was set during and just after the Civil War, and the other was set in the 1980s. So they're both period pieces. But that's the interesting thing about being an actor. If I have to grow out facial hair, at the time, actually, it was growing my hair out as well for those roles. I don't get to lose that when I go to the grocery store or the gym. So people who don't know me, I'm sure think, who's this weirdo?
Yeah. No, it was great. And I was like, I know him from the gym and that's why he looks like that. So it was pretty cool to see that. And then that kind of made me aware of the film industry and the film industry in Savannah, or in Georgia, so we can talk about that a little bit. But you grew up in Savannah, right?
In and around Savannah. Yeah, I was
Okay.
in Savannah. I was in Effingham County, Liberty County, but always within 15 or 20 miles of Savannah.
Sure. Yeah. And tell me a little bit about growing up here. What was it like?
I did not appreciate it as a child, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think nobody does. But I look back now at the experiences I had, and it was amazing. In retrospect, like I was always near the woods. I was always near nature. So, during the summertime, my buddies and I would leave at 7 a.m. and we would just be out on adventures till the sun went down, and the idea of sitting inside and watching TV and being on a computer just never crossed our mind.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. Like, I graduated from high school and I couldn't wait to leave because I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to go to a bigger, more exciting place. And I did that. But I eventually came back home because I just love it here. I really do. I just love it.
That's awesome. And you grew up, I heard you talk about your mom being kind of the person who really maybe more disciplined, taught you right from wrong. Is that right?
Yes, she was a very sweet and loving woman, but she was a mom. Her job was to make sure I stayed safe and kind of follow the rules.
Yeah, and came home when it got dark outside.
Right.
But your dad was more the adventurous type. So he gave you those experiences. Something you remember from your dad?
My dad and my mom, they divorced when I was like 2 years old, but they remained close. And I spent time with both of them a lot. My dad never saw a rule that he thought couldn't be broken. He was just that kind of personality. And whenever I was with him, my poor mom would just stay worried because she knew my dad loved adventure and he was always drawn to things that just had a little tinge of danger to them. But an interesting thing, when I was in high school, I used to have really long hair, and the high school that I went to, it was a public school, but they had a rule where men couldn't have hair longer than the top of a dress shirt collar. And I was a good student. I made great grades. My teachers liked me. But eventually the principal called me in the office one day and told me I had to cut my hair or I was suspended and I couldn't come back to school until I cut it. So I left, went home. My poor mom, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm taking you to get a haircut today." I was like, I don't know. And I called my dad and he came over and he said, "Son, if you don't want to cut your hair, don't cut your hair." And so at his urging and his support, um, we took the school to court and we went through the Georgia court system all the way to the Supreme Court of Georgia. Then we got bumped into the federal court system. And because they were suspending me, and of course being suspended meant I was getting zeros for all of my class
Right.
and tests, they put it on a fast track. Eventually they had to let me back in school. They let me make up all of my work. Um, so, but it was that just kind of
Well,
personified my mom versus my dad. My dad was like, "Yeah, there's some danger involved. There's some risk involved, but if it matters to you, let's fight." And my sweet mom was just like, "Don't do anything to risk it." She's a mom. She was worried about me, but it turned out, and it's funny in life, generally, I've taken a lot of risk. And when I coach actors, I always tell them, you have to balance things, but taking risk is necessary, right? If you just take the safe approach, you'll never move up in life. But risks sometimes, usually they go well, but sometimes they do blow up in your face. You just got to be prepared for that. But I learned that from my dad because he never feared taking risk ever.
but even a risk, even a negative is a learning experience. So
Absolutely.
it's all part of the journey, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I also was fascinated with your career prior to acting because you were in political science and you have a law degree, or you earned a law degree, which was fascinating to me. But then you went into acting because you had a choice between art history and acting, and you chose the acting side. I would have taken art history, but you chose the acting route. When did you know that that was like the right decision for you?
It's interesting because you're right. I was in college and I was studying political science. And the great thing about a liberal arts education is you're forced to study different things that you may not be drawn to, right? And so I had to take some type of art class. And I'm colorblind and I suck with paint. And I just like, I'm going to fail art history. I just knew that was going to be the case. So I took the acting class. And here's the thing. I love actors, obviously. But if you've ever been on a college campus and you met the theater kids, they're theater kids. They're a little out there sometimes.
Yeah.
And at the time I was super logical. The older I got, the more I believe in magic and like the wonders of the world. But at the time I was just super logical. And I was like, oh, this is going to be terrible to be stuck in class with a bunch of weirdos. So I remember the first couple weeks in class, my acting teacher gave me a monologue to do. And it was the final monologue from Dr. Faustus, if you've ever read that play. And I had to do it in class. And it's literally just a classroom. There was no stage. It was just a little class with like 11 students, fluorescent lights above, nothing special. And I did this monologue. And I got to tell you, like my whole body was on fire. And I always joke that I've never done crack, but I'm going to assume that this is what it feels like because
Sure.
it was amazing. And I knew at that moment, I had no idea about an acting career. I knew nothing about film or TV or even theater. I just knew that there was something in that moment, that 2-minute monologue I did, that sparked a fire in me that kept me going the rest of my adult life pursuing. Unfortunately, it took me a long time to figure out how to pursue it correctly. I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels, but I never lost that passion, that love that was ignited with that very first monologue in that class.
That's amazing. Yeah, acting is not something that I don't think I would. It just doesn't seem like it would be something I would do, and that's the beauty of this, world, is everybody has a role, and you're more of the subdued type, like you mentioned, but you've worked alongside of so many different actors, Nicolas Cage, Tom Cruise, some other ones, but in the Marvel movie recently, I was so excited to see you on screen in that, and Anthony Mackie, I guess he's kind of a jokester. What was that like, working with somebody who's, you know, cracking jokes while you're in trying to be serious or.
Anthony Mackie is one of the coolest dudes I've ever worked with in a film. If I didn't know he was a A-list actor who's playing Captain America, I would just assume he was a local actor who they picked up to come in and do a role because he's just so down to earth, so friendly. But he has one of his personalities. Like I am an introvert, right? On set, I'm an introvert. In life, I'm an introvert. He is not. And so he is just nonstop cutting jokes and being silly. And I've often told folks working on that movie, the hardest part was stopping laughing when the scene started, right? Because he'd tell these jokes right before the
Oh,
director.
wow.
Um, but it was delightful. I mean, it was one of those movies that I was playing a Navy SEAL, and I got some pretty fun, intense moments in that film. But Anthony just made it a delight. I mean, actually, the entire team. Like I said, you think of like Marvel being this massive corporation, which it is, but you would think it would be very distant and cold. And it was just the absolute opposite in my experience. Like everybody I work with on set, from the director to the producers, the folks from Marvel, just from day one, treated me like I was family. And even when I went out to the premiere in LA, they invited me out. And in many ways, I felt like that little kid who like snuck into the circus tent who wasn't supposed to be there. Uh, but every single one of them, from the editors to the actors to the co-president of Marvel, they all came up to me and just did so like they just poured out love and warmth and
Well,
made me feel like I was a part of this team. And I'm sitting in a room with Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie and these huge stars, and I'm a working class actor who lives outside of Savannah, right? And at no point did I feel less than or like I wasn't part of the family. So it was a wonderful experience. But Anthony kind of from day one set that tone. And just, I mean, my first day of working with him, he was smoking cigar off on set.
yeah.
And we started chatting about it because I'm a cigar smoker. And later that day, I get a knock on my trailer door and I open it and it's Anthony. And he says, "Hey, this is my favorite cigar. Let me know what you think."
Oh, how
Who
nice.
does that? He's just that kind of guy. Every time I worked on that film for about a year and a half, between Atlanta and LA. And every time I was on set with him, I felt like I was running into an old friend.
Oh, that's amazing. That cigar story is really great. I know guys, that is kind of a bonding thing with my husband's a big cigar smoker too. And that's such a great story. And it's neat to see that, when you get down to it, everyone's just a human being and everyone's been there. Everyone's had struggles and all of that. Do you think imposter syndrome comes into play with actors? Because you mentioned like you're just a guy from Savannah, but imposter syndrome meaning we don't really feel like we belong. We've achieved, but we don't really feel like we belong there. Do you find that in yourself, and do you find that in the actors that you coach?
I think I find that in many, many actors that I coach, especially those who are starting out. For me, on set, like when I show up at work, I'm there to work, right? I always tell folks, I can be the biggest fan of an actor off set, but when I walk onto set, that person, I remember one of the first big actors I worked with is Tom Cruise. And I mean, my gosh, I loved Tom Cruise the time I was a little boy. But when I walked on the set and the director called action, the fanboy had to go away because I had to stand toe to toe with him. Now for me, going to like the premiere, I've been to a lot of premieres in my life. They have not been anything like a Marvel premiere. I mean,
I
it was just at a different level. So yeah, absolutely. When I got there, I had imposter syndrome. Because I'm looking around and they blocked off 2 city blocks on Hollywood Boulevard in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater and had this massive tent. It was crazy. And I'll say this, I've got to the point in life that if I don't know something or I'm not sure how to do something, I don't lie or pretend.
right.
And so Disney had given me what they call a handler, and that's a person who goes to these events and they just kind of guide you. And
Right.
she walked up to me when I first arrived, and the first thing I said was, "It's so great to meet you. I have no idea what I'm doing. Please guide me." And she did, right? The whole event from walking the red carpet to the after party and all that, she was delightful. but I didn't pretend like I knew what I was doing because I did not. And I relied on someone who does this every week, right? She helps actors do this thing. And she made the process, I wouldn't say easy. It was still a little stressful, but she made it fun and way easier than it would have been otherwise.
I guess that's a great thing too, is being open to learning from somebody else and not being afraid to ask or, admit that you don't know something, because that's how we learn too. We learn from other people.
Yeah, I tell my actors that I coach, it's like there's something wonderful about it being your first time on a set. And I think a lot of actors they book their first, 2 or 3 lines on set, and they show up and they want to pretend like they know what they're doing because they don't want to feel, oh, I'm the new guy or the new guy who doesn't know anything. And I tell them, show up. And when you meet the first crew member, who's usually going to be the second AD, and they're kind of responsible for the actor, tell them, hey, this is my very first booking. I'm so excited. Please let me know if there's anything I need to be aware of. I don't want to cause things to get slowed down. So just guide me today. And they will so appreciate that. And they will bend over backwards to help people out and guide them so they don't make mistakes that could, cause some issues or cause them to feel embarrassed.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Working Actors Lab, tell me about that.
Well, I started teaching, gosh, about 10 years ago. And I did it. I wasn't even starting it because I wanted to, be an acting teacher. It was just some folks that I knew wanted to get into acting. And so I started just coaching them one-on-one. And the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it. And what I realized is I got more joy out of the folks that I helped book jobs than I did when I booked jobs. And so I just started doing it more and more and more. As my career's progressed, it's become more difficult to do it because I'm just last year, I was just on the road nonstop. But when I have free time, I definitely love teaching classes. I love coaching. I primarily do everything now via Zoom just because it's easier. I can do it I'm doing a class right now, and 90% of my students are out of LA, New York, and Atlanta. I've got one in England. So using these tools like we're using now just allows you to touch people in a much larger area. But yeah, I remember a few years ago, I coached a young woman who'd been pursuing acting for a long time, and she'd done student films and short films, but nothing professional. And she came to me to help her with an audition for PTA Mom #2. And she had 5 lines. And so we worked on it and made sure it was good, turned it in. And about a week later, I'm driving somewhere and my manager calls and told me I'd booked a Matthew McConaughey film. I was like, oh, cool, this will be fun. Well, 5 minutes later, this actress calls me and she's crying. And I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? And she says, oh, I booked PTA Mom #2.
Aww.
I was 10 times more excited about her getting PTA Mom #2 than me getting the McConaughey film because it was her first feature film, And the other thing I realized is the more I've helped other people, the more good that's come into my life. So it's really not even all that altruistic, right? I help people and it just, not necessarily that they help me, but it's just whatever, it just comes back. So I have the free, I do it.
You're speaking my language with that, because it's just good to help other people. And it really exciting with small businesses, if I see them succeed because of the marketing that they've done. I'm so excited for them, just like that. I can imagine. What do you think is a common mistake that new actors make in just getting their name out there?
Sure. The number one mistake I see actors make, and I made it for a long time, is they look at everyone's advice as being equal but different, right? So, I know when I started in LA, I took acting classes taught by acting teachers who had never booked a professional acting job in their life, right? They moved to LA, pursue acting, failed at it, so they became acting teachers. They're then trying to teach people how to do something they failed at. And I look back on the silly advice they gave me. And as a teacher, folks will come to me and they'll say, oh, this person said I should do this, and this person said I should do that. And it's just ridiculous. Just horribly ridiculous. And I always tell folks a story my mom worked in the meat department at Kroger's at one point in her life. And I remember she reached out once and she asked me for some advice, some legal advice. And I told her, Mom, not an area I worked in, but I have a law degree. I've studied a little bit. I gave her my advice. And she says to me, I don't know, Mark, Kim has very different advice. I was like, Mom, who's Kim? She says she works with me in the meat department in Kroger's. So for my mom, Kim in the meat department at Kroger's, her legal advice was just different than my legal advice, but absolutely the same, legitimacy. And so what I tell new actors, and I preach this all the time, only take advice, and this goes for everything. Take advice from people who are successful at what you want to be doing, right? It's like, I sometimes have to do a little plumbing on my house. I am not a professional plumber, right? If I do something, it's going to take me 10 hours longer than a guy who knows how to do it for real. And there are just nuances that come from running a plumbing business that I have no idea about. And so I would tell folks, if you are interested in becoming an actor, find mentors who are successful, who are higher up that mountain than you. I look at the acting world, the acting business as a mountain. And most people who say, I want to be an actor, are at the bottom of the mountain, and they never move up the mountain, right? Very few people move up to the higher and higher levels. And what they do is they stand at the bottom of the mountain asking each other how to get up the mountain. And I
Oh,
said, look up, see that person who's higher than you and say, hey, would you lower rope down and help me get to where you're at? And then whenever you get where they're at, look higher up the mountain and ask them to lower rope and help you get to where they're at, right? Like, what I teach is not the only way to become a successful actor, but it is a proven way to become a successful actor, right? There's millions of wrong ways to do it. There's multiple good ways. Mine's not the only way, but it's a proven way. And if I could go back in time and tell young Mark starting out as an actor, ignore all of the stupid things these people were telling you, because it did not work for them. And what happened for me is I eventually found successful working actors. I found producers who were successful, cast directors who were successful, directors who were successful, and I learned from them and started implementing what they taught me. And when that happened, my career took off. But before that, I just spun my wheels, having no idea where to go, listening to everyone around me who knew no more than I did.
you were a sponge for the advice, but you were looking to people. You weren't looking to the people at the next rung yet until you did that. It was successful. That's awesome. Well, you're in a great position then to help other actors because you've been there and you have a proven system. That's
And
awesome.
here's the thing, when I have a question, like if I'm facing something in my career that I'm not aware of or I've never faced before, I don't ask someone who's further down the mountain than me. I don't ask someone who's the same level as me. I look up the mountain, right? I'm not at the top of the mountain. I don't know everything. So when I have a question, I always find a mentor who's done more, who's faced those issues before and knows how to overcome. And I think every actor, if they do that, they will cut years off their journey.
What about marketing? This is a marketing podcast. I always want to talk. I love marketing, so I always like to talk about it. But you have a marketing toolkit for actors, and what is it about self promotion? What should they do? What do they tend to do? I've heard like film festivals and things like that aren't a great place to. People think that's a great networking opportunity, but maybe it's not. What would you tell them about networking, marketing themselves?
Well, I put those two in separate categories. So I think networking is one thing, and marketing is a somewhat different thing. For networking, I know folks in LA who for years, every week, they go to multiple red carpet premieres. They're not in the movies. They just show up at the red carpets. They walk the red carpet. They go to all these parties. I know a lot of actors who go to like these events where there's 100 actors and 3 casting directors, and there's that energy of pick me, pick me, pick me. And
Yeah.
they say that that's networking. And I always tell them that's not networking. That reeks of desperation, right? That's the person in high school who's begging someone to go to the prom with them. No one wants to go to the prom with that person, right? The best way to network is to book a job. It can be a student film, a short film, a super low budget non-union film. Get on set, be professional, be easy to work with, know your lines, do a good job. That's how you network. And that's how I built my career, because repeat business is the key to successful business, right? I've
Yeah.
so many directors and producers that I did a job for them, and then later they call me in for a bigger role or another project, and they tell their friends about me. That's the majority of my work. And especially at this stage where I'm now getting offered jobs where I don't have to audition for them. Well, so often that comes because this director has a producer who worked on another film that I worked on, and they met me and interacted with me. But again, I'm an introvert. So it's not like I'm on set telling jokes and high-fiving everyone, right? It's not my personality.
That's your style.
But I show up and I'm easy to work with and I do a good job, right? That's how you network. Now, there's nothing wrong with going to red carpet events and things like that if you enjoy it. Just don't tell yourself this is somehow going to help your career. And film festivals are great if you're in a film that's in the film festival, right? But if you're just showing up and you're one of thousands of other people that's like, look at me, I'm here too. Okay, well, I meet people at the grocery store every week. I don't know if they're good actors or not, right? The way to know if someone's a good actor is to see them act. So that's the networking aspect of it. Marketing, I love marketing. And I tell folks, you can start a restaurant and have the best food in the city, but if no one knows it exists, your restaurant's going to fail, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you have to market your product. And that's all we are as actors. We're a product. We deliver a product and a service. So I engage in two forms of marketing. One is classic, kind of junk mail, direct to the consumer marketing, where I send postcards to casting directors. And the postcards are always, I won't bore you guys with the details of it, but they are sellable marketing materials to tell the casting director, I'm working, here's my brand. I don't literally say that, but that's the message behind it. And I do that. I don't do that once a year. It's a campaign that I've been doing for many, many, many years, right? Every 6 to 12 weeks, I send out a postcard to all the cast directors, in the markets that I work in. And I tell folks that that's the way for the people who can bring you in to learn about you, learn what you're doing, and learn especially what unique qualities you bring to the table as an actor. And, many times I've had students come to me and say, oh, well, such and such told me that that's a waste of time. And every time they say that, the person who says a waste of time isn't a working actor, right? It's like, sure. But I mean, I'll tell you what I think is just a really fun story. Years ago when I was in LA, and at that point, I'd only done student films and short films and horrible low budget films that I hope you and none of your viewers ever find. They sucked and I sucked. But anyway, I was at the grocery store one night and this guy walks by in his suit and he says, Mark McCullough. And I'm like a little taken aback. He comes up and he tells me he's an agent at this agency that I've been sending postcards to every 6 weeks for 3 years.
Wow.
And so we're chatting. He spends 30 minutes telling me why he can't sign me. And he says, look, we represent Kathy Bates. This week, we spent 2 hours negotiating a $200,000 contract for her. He said, I'm not going to spend 2 hours negotiating a $2,000 contract for you. And I remember thinking, man, I wish I had a $2,000 contract, right? Because I was making zero as an actor. And he says, but you should feel proud of yourself because I know who you are. Good job. But you don't have to send me any more postcards. And so he leaves. And 6 weeks later, I send him another postcard. And 6 weeks later, I send him another postcard. And 6 weeks later, I send him another postcard. And a year later, he calls me and says, you win. And I signed with the 5th most prestigious boutique agency in LA, having only booked student films, short film, and super low budget independent films, right?
Wow.
Because marketing. And when I first came to the Southeast, back to Savannah, and got an agent in the Southeast, I started marketing and casting director, letting them know, here's who I am, here's what I bring to the table. And what happened, they started requesting me from my agent without her submitting me. And very quickly that told my agent, okay, this guy's in demand and I'm not even pushing him. So it made me a more valuable product in my agent's mind. Therefore,
Right.
she pushed me more. And I very quickly became a known commodity in this market. But if you ask any casting director in any market that I work in, hey, they're not going to use the term necessarily brand, but
Right.
what roles does Mark play? They'll tell you, boom, boom. Like they know. And the reason they know, hey, I booked them, but I make sure I tell them when I'm booking them, right? And then I make sure, so marketing, also make sure all of my materials, my headshots, my demo reel, all of it reflects my unique brand. And then also use social media. That's more the long game. You're soft touching directors, producers, network execs. But I shot a film in Ukraine a couple years ago because the cast director followed me on social media and saw my posts and know what I play. I got 2 auditions for leads in films this year from social media for like big things. So yeah, I just think that too many actors, and I think too many people are afraid to stand up. I'm sure you've heard the tall poppy syndrome, right? They don't want to be the one to stand up and like put out their, hey, I have something special to offer, because they're afraid they're going to be cut down.
Mm-hmm.
And folks, ignore it, right? If you have something that you're proud of, and hopefully if you're trying to become an actor or you have a restaurant or you're selling t-shirts, hopefully you're proud of your product. And if you're proud of your product, you have to market your product, right?
We do.
And that's different than like, oh, I'm amazing. Yeah, no, that's that's different than I have a valuable thing here that no one else in the world has. Doesn't mean my valuable thing is better than other people's. But if you cast me in your film or TV show, I'm going to give you something that no other actor in the world can give you. Me.
Yeah, I love that. I can't tell you how much, because first of all, your consistency with your marketing. You're not the people who said that the sending those cards and things doesn't work. It's because they're looking for a short win. They're looking for a quick win. And sometimes with marketing, we think it has to work right away. But what you're doing is you're building. It's a slow rise of all the things that you're doing. It eventually works, and you're getting your name out there, and just raising awareness. You're not looking for that short. I mean, of course, you're looking for the short win, but some of the tactics we use has to be the long game, to bring it up. So I love that, because consistency is, I think, where a lot of people, they miss out with marketing. They have to be consistent and persistent. You are persistent, which I love. And then this other idea of your brand, and I'd like to talk about how you figured out what your brand was, because I wonder if actors sometimes think this is the kind of role I want to play, but actually they have a niche that they maybe didn't realize. But knowing the value that you bring, that your brand, let's just talk about a brand, knowing the value that your brand brings to the other person or to the customer, is what matters. Not we're proud of what we offer as a business or a service, but it matters what it does for the person you're promoting it to. So for you, it's, doing a great job on set, showing up, being, easy to work with, those kinds of things. But the value that you bring, that your brand brings, is what matters. So I love that. And I think we tend to, as business owners, when I hear a lot from business owners, they want to talk about the things that they're proud of about themselves, not what the customer would care about. And so then thinking about your roles, how does an actor decide what their brand is? They want to be authentic to themselves, but you also want to work. And then through that, you can find your authentic persona, right? How does that work? I have no clue with acting how that works.
Question. And it is, I think, one of the key failures for actors to keep them from going to the higher levels. I joke that anybody can book cop number 2 with 3 lines, right? I mean, it's just not. It's super exciting the first 5 times you do it on ground show and TV show, right? I can promise you it's not as exciting the 20th time you do it, right? But the way to move up the levels of this industry is an actor has to know that when they come on screen, what do people feel in their gut about them? Right? It's not a cerebral thing; it's a gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, they believe they are perceived in a way that isn't true. So I started working on branding years ago for other people. And it's interesting. I'll now get like corporate folks reach out wanting to do branding with me because they want to know, how's a corporate board perceive them, right? Because people very often are just dead wrong about it. And I'll tell you, when I moved to LA, I thought the world viewed me the way I viewed myself, the way my mom viewed me, which was kind, thoughtful, smart. believer in justice, fighting for truth and goodness, right? So my headshots reflected that, right? I had like my little tie on and I was clean shaven. I had my little 9-year-old boy haircut, and I looked like Captain America, all right? The super good guy hero. And I would walk into an audition to play the super good guy hero. And it didn't matter how well I acted in the scene. What they got, they being the cast writer, the director, the producers, what they got in their gut was in conflict with my acting choices. Because learned eventually that what I gave off was not what I thought, right? It wasn't the truth of who I am. So I had taken a branding class with a famous branding teacher. It was very, very expensive. And I did this class with a buddy of mine. We both went to LA about the same time. And what I got were a lot of negative adjectives, violent, unpredictable, intense. And I was like, I'll take intense. I am intense in real life, but I'm not these other things. And my buddy got, powerful, authoritative, good, wholesome. So he got the cop that you want to show up to take your cat out of the tree when it gets stuck, right? If I play a cop, you don't want me to show up because I'm going to be planting evidence or like blackmailing, you know what I mean?
Oh, interesting.
But my buddy took those adjectives, and I'll tell you how we got him in a second, and he implemented them in his marketing. And within 3 or 4 months, started booking jobs. And within 2 years, was a full-time working actor. And I remember like helping him with auditions thinking, he's not that good of an actor. I'm way better actor than he, what I mean? Us actors have those ideas because what I kept doing was acting. And he was just being himself and not getting in the way. And so I was struggling for years. And I went to a film festival one time, and there was a casting associate there. And we were chatting. She probably had a little too much to drink, so she was very honest with me. And she says, Mark, you've done dozens and dozens and dozens of auditions for us. I was like, yeah. She goes, and every once in a while you get a call back. I'm like, yeah, but you never booked the role. It's like, yeah. She said, you want to know why? And I said, I would love to. And she says, because you're a pretty good actor. And I was like, I thought that's the point. She goes, nope. She goes, the problem is pretty good actors every once in a while will get the call back, but you will never beat the guy who is the part. You're acting. And she says to me, you need to figure out what you bring naturally and give us that. So I remember I went home, I pulled out those notes from that branding class I'd taken years ago, and I implemented them, right? I made myself look scruffy and I dressed in a different way. 2 months later, I booked my first network TV show. Went after that, booked a film. The TV show, my character's name was T-shirt Guy with 5 lines. It took me 9 months from booking T-shirt Guy till I was sitting next to Tom Cruise in a major supporting role, shooting in Atlanta, South America, New Orleans, having the time of my life. My acting didn't change. The difference was I stopped acting. And I trusted that when I'm just me and not paying attention, just being me in the moment, I give off things on camera. I give off an energy. There's a darkness to it. There's a violence to it. There's an unpredictability to it. And even now, like in Captain America, I'm playing a good guy, but he's a Navy SEAL who's capable of extreme violence, right?
Right.
Now, what's interesting is before I understood branding, I get headshots and I'd send them to my mom and she would frame them and put them on the wall. After I understood marketing, I get headshots and send them to my mom. She never hung up another headshot, right?
Right.
She asked me, she goes, what happened to all the nice looking photos? Because for her, she knew the real, hopefully sweet, lovable guy that, So she didn't watch my movies and TV shows before she passed away because she didn't like seeing what other people saw, right? But the key to getting it, and I've helped a lot of people with branding, it takes some work. Basically, what you have to do is you go out into a park, a coffee shop, any place where there's just folks hanging out. You sit down, you read a book, you're on your phone or what have you, and you have a partner who's standing 30 feet away, and they have, I created a PDF that just has a bunch of adjectives. They're specifically chosen, about 100 adjectives.
Interesting.
And literally the partner just stops strangers and says, hey, we're doing a school experiment. Would you just look at that person and circle the words that you think apply to them? And I tell folks in the South, you have to also say it's more important that you're truthful than nice because, it's
Right.
the South. People, you don't have to worry about that in LA or New York,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Right.
they'll just be honest. And literally they do that in different places, dress differently, but still in the way that they would dress. Like for me, when I did it, I might be in a t-shirt one day and a suit another day, whatever. And you go to different places because what we're trying to get is a broad demographic, right? To get data.
Sure.
And then they compile that information, send it to me. And then what I do is I organize it by what I call essences, right?
Okay.
So you have like, if people choose the word witty, smart, clever, intelligent, educated, they're all different words for the same essence.
Sure.
Bold, strong, dynamic, powerful. They're all different words. So the key is figuring out what are the 6 most powerful essences that you give off by doing nothing. And once you know that, number one, it allows you to stop acting. You can just be. And when you're now looking at headshots, instead of looking at 500 pictures and trying to pick the most beautiful or the most handsome, you pick headshots that reflect the adjectives that you naturally give off, right? And I can tell you, it changed everything for me. Like I remember several years ago, I had an audition. It was a self-tape audition for a movie out of LA where I was playing a guy who, me and a group of guys kidnap a woman. And the plan is to get what we want and let her go. And the guys leave my character with this woman. And while they're gone, I kill her and cut her up. It's horrible stuff. And the audition scene is my buddies coming back and they're freaking out, asking why I killed this woman. And I tell them why. And I do the scene like I was talking to you about going to Target and buying some new socks. I don't do anything. I just have a conversation. Well, I get a call back. I fly to LA, and it's one of the biggest casting offices in LA. And I walk in the room, and it's the casting director, the director, and the writer. And I start doing the scene. And halfway through the scene, I forget my lines, which happens all the time. I don't let them know I forgot my lines, right? I just stay in the moment. I look off, and I'm looking away probably 8, 10, 15 seconds. I remember my next line. I keep going. I leave the room, and 3 hours later, my manager forwards me an email from the casting director. And the first line says, "Oh my God, Mark is terrifying." Halfway through the scene, he looked off, and we could all imagine the horrible things going through his mind. And the only thing going through my mind is, what is my next line? But I don't have to act. If I'm just not getting in the way of the natural energy and essence I give off, and my look is in congruence with it, I let it do the work for me. That's the secret acting, is not acting, just being. And once you can grasp that, that's how you move to higher, higher, higher levels. And I show people my auditions all the time. And I show it to them to say, it's not brain surgery, right? I'm just having a conversation and letting my natural essence and energy, which is utterly unique from everyone else's,
Right.
through. And that's the key. Like you'll hear a lot of actors say that they'll get an audition and they're like, oh my God, I've got to make a bold choice, which almost always equals stupid over the top choice.
Overacting. Yeah.
Right. And I say the boldest choice you can make is to allow you to come through. All of your loves, your hates, your many failures, your prejudices, all the wonderful things that make us utterly human and flawed and unique. If you bring that to every role you do, you might not be right for that role, but the people who are watching your audition will know exactly what your product is. They'll know your brand. And
Right.
when you need it, they'll call you and you'll get it.
The authentic brand. The authentic brand self. That's amazing. That is so interesting. And it really does. That is branding 101, really. That's fascinating.
That's why when I'm talking to actors, and I've read hundreds of acting books, but there's like 1 or 2 acting books I give them, and then I'm like, you need to read this book on marketing. You need to read this book on business. If you want to have a career as an actor, it's like if you want to become a chef who owns a bunch of restaurants, yeah, you got to go to culinary school and learn how to make a souffle. But you also better learn how to buy property, run a restaurant, market the restaurant. There's a lot of things that go into becoming a successful actor outside of just acting. That's
Learning the craft. Yeah. There's a lot to running a business, and it is a business. I mean, what you're doing is a business. So, and another area that I'm fascinated with, that aligns with what you do is planning. So you teach them to create a 10-month, is it a 10-month plan? And then, so creating a plan, a business plan, so to speak, and then breaking that down into smaller goals. Is that part of your
Yeah,
team?
I come up with 5-year, 3-year, 1-year, 6-month, and monthly goals. And then each month, basically, at the beginning of each month, I want them to come up with action steps. I make a distinction between goals and action steps. For
Sure.
me, goals are things that I can't accomplish on my own, right? So as an actor, I can't make myself get cast in a TV show. Other people have to have a say in that. But so that's a goal. An action step is 100% in my control. So if I've got a movie coming up and I need to be in shape, my goal is not to get to 9% body fat. I'm going to get to 9% body. It's 100% in my control. And I like to make that distinction because I think if you make your goals, if you call something a goal and you're mixing what's completely in your control with what's not in your control, I think it gives you an out that you don't deserve, right? Like if you can't have excuses for things that, they're just all in your control. That doesn't mean that obviously life comes in the way. You have to be loving. You can't be brutal if you don't hit your action steps. But I see a lot of folks who come to me and we'll go over the steps they should be taking on a weekly and monthly basis, and they just don't do it. And they have a lot of excuses. I'm like, Oprah's really busy. She gets a lot done, right? She has the same 24 hours that we have done or we have to play in. So I like to give them the goals are those things that they're working towards, and the action steps are the steps they take to reach there.
Right. Because sometimes we make excuses for why we can't achieve a goal because there's outside influences, which what you're talking about. You can't control whether someone's going to hire you for a particular role, but you can control the steps you take to get yourself conditioned for that role or that type of role, and on and on. Same with business. You can say, oh, well, the economy is bad, so that's why I didn't work on my marketing plan, or I didn't, create the social media content because what does it matter, and they just make excuses. But if you have those,
Last year was a very slow year for the industry, yet I booked some of the biggest jobs I've ever booked in my career, right? I mean, I always tell folks, just because it's hard, so what?
right,
You know,
you have to keep moving.
you keep moving. Like if I'm on a ship with someone else and that ship sinks and I see the shore a mile away and the guy next to me has a life preserver and I don't, well, what are my options? I can complain about the fact that I don't have a life preserver, so it's going to be harder for me to swim to shore, or I
Exactly.
can start swimming, right? That's it. So yeah, I think we need goals to give us guidance, to give us a destination point, to keep us motivated. But it's the day-to-day work, right? Like my job as an actor is not saying lines on set. That's vacation for me. When I go to set, that's
The
pure. There's no work
hard work
there.
is done.
Yeah, my job is working on my marketing, training, doing my auditions, making sure my press kit's up to date, making sure my IMDb is up to date. Just all those things that they're not sexy. They're not, now they're fun to me, but for a lot of people, they're not fun. But they're certainly not, no one's going to give you a clap because you're on top of your weekly acting work. But that's the work, right? That's the nitty gritty that actually moves you forward. Um, and I think that, like for me, I carry around with me every day an index card with my 1 month goal on it. And I read it multiple times a day, every single day. And it's just to remind me why I'm working so hard, right? It just keeps me inspired. And around my house, I have my goals, just hanging on the wall, various things, vision boards, whatever. But they're just things that keep me fired up. Because like any business, the business can be hard at points and you're going to face rejections and lots and lots of failures. I can promise you, any success you've ever seen me have, guaranteed there's 99 failures and some of them brutal failures where I look like a fool. That's just part of the game. You
That's
just keep moving forward.
It's nice that you can admit that, because we all have those. And again, like we said before, that's how you grow too. You have to have those struggles and failures to learn anyway, and be humble and, continue to strive. Can you share any one of those vision board items or anything that you carry around on an index card or post around your house? Could anything you feel comfortable sharing with us?
So my acting one, I have one for acting, I have one for producing, and then I have others for like whatever personal stuff. But for my acting, I book a series regular on a hit TV show, playing a powerful, compelling character that's perfectly in line with my brand. I love working with my cast members and my crew.
Great. That's a vision. That's a vision statement. That's awesome. I'm
You
sure
know,
we
I,
doing
I
that.
last sentence because I worked on a show year before last. The show's great. Working on the show was not. And I remember talking to my manager, and I said, if they offered me a series regular, I'd turn this one down, which is very unusual.
Yeah,
It was just not fun. And obviously, I love acting because it's a lot of work, but it's also really fun. And, usually you have a family of folks that are working together that it's amazing. But I started including that in any of my goals that I set up, is making sure that the people I'm working with bring joy to the project, because the work itself is not enough, right? The people,
sure.
on a film set, TV set, you're spending 12 to 16 hours a day with these people. So you want to make sure you're getting a team that you enjoy spending time with.
Absolutely. Because it would be, yeah, being around people any kind of work environment for a long period of time. I mean, if it's a toxic environment, it's not fun no matter what your job in that business is. That's, yeah, totally true. Um, so tell us a little bit about what you might be working on right now. I heard you're working on something about your late father.
Yeah. So as a producer and writer, I've been developing a TV show for a long time now, based on the life of my dad and some of my best friends that I grew up with. And it's a raw, grounded comedy set in a trailer park just outside of Savannah. And, it's going to have the tone. If you've ever seen the BBC version of The Office, which is quite different from the American version, right?
Yeah.
It threads this needle between comedy and pathos really well. And so the show, it is a comedy, but there's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of real world stuff in it. It's not a sitcom. It's not Everybody Loves Raymond, right? It's not
Yeah.
even The Office, but it's got a lot of heart. Um, it's one of those shows that, I've written all the episodes for season one, and I am a big softie, but multiple times when I'm writing, I'm just pouring tears because I'm writing about someone or something that may not even be a sad moment. It just triggers something, inside of me. So I'm
Oh,
excited.
that's amazing. Well, I can't wait to see that. And tell us about your new addition to your family. I have seen it on social media, and I just think it's absolutely adorable.
Yeah. So about 6 weeks ago, this little, very sickly kitten showed up in the backyard, and he was itsy bitsy. His eyes were swollen shut from conjunctivitis. His mom had abandoned him. And, so took him to the vet. He weighed 1 pound, and we got a lot of medication and stuff for him. The vet was afraid he was going to lose one eye. Thankfully he didn't. He's fine, but
Good.
he went from 1 pound, and I think now he's probably 6 pounds in 6 weeks. And he is just the sweetest little cat. I named him Rambo because
Oh my
Rambo
God.
defied death, like our little kitty defied death. So, but he is just amazing. He sleeps with me every night, and he's just so chill. I do a lot of bike rides, and me and my girlfriend would do these tandem bike rides, and he just comes along. Like, he'll either be in my little backpack or she'll hold him, and we take him to restaurants, and he's just so chill. It is amazing. Like, he is the best cat I've ever met. Love him.
Wow. That's so cute. We'll definitely share some pictures, and you share it a lot on social media. So what's his name? Rambo. So
Rambo. Yeah,
we'll
he raises my average a lot. He's way cuter.
whatever. That's funny, but yeah, we'll enjoy seeing him, and we'll enjoy seeing you on many new projects, many more projects. I've enjoyed following your career since the time I saw you at the gym, in your handlebar mustache and your persona. And I will never judge a person that I see with, in character again when I go to the gym.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, this was a pleasure. I really enjoyed chatting with you today.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day.
You too.